Hello, Layla. Welcome.
Hi, Heather.
Well, just for everybody watching, I would love for you to just introduce yourself, your name, and where you're from.
So my name's Layla Porter. I've just noticed that it only has my first name, but that's fine. I'm probably the only Layla around at the moment. So I am in the UK, as you can probably tell, and I'm probably about 50 miles north of London in a place called Milton Keynes. So, yeah.
Very nice. We're going to start off this .NET Foundation candidacy interview with a fun question to break the ice.
Alrighty.
Sound good?
It does, yeah.
Okay. So, if you had a choice between two superpowers, being invisible or flying, which would you choose?
I'm really nosy and I like to know everything that's going on. I hate being out the loop. So I think it would have to be invisibility, because then I could just sneak in everywhere and listen in on everything and know everything. And that would really help with my curiosity. So I think it would have to be invisibility, Heather. Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not working on the security team.
Snooping around.
Yes. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Heather Downing. I've been doing .NET for a while, and I got asked to be the interviewer for so many wonderful people, starting with yourself. So let's start off with probably the biggest question. Why are you running for a position on the .NET Foundation board?
Well, I am really passionate about .NET. And in particular, C#. So I actually changed careers about 6 years ago to be a developer. So I'm one of these, lots and lots of developers are starting now with a career change. They haven't gone to do a computer science degree and things like that. So I feel like I represent those people. I also represent our female colleagues and everything. So I think that's really important to see females in these positions. So I wanted to run to represent women and developers from different paths to technology. And I love helping new developers into the .NET ecosystem, but it's really hard. So I'd love to make a difference in helping more developers come into .NET and C# or F# or Xamarin or whatever they want to do, but just make it more accessible to more people. So yeah, that would be pretty awesome if I could do that.
So what is your background with the .NET Foundation?
So I've been a meetup organizer for must be about 3 years now, and our meetup is part of the .NET Foundation. So I've been working on bringing .NET to my local community, working with other .NET community leaders. So that's my main background with the .NET Foundation, is through the community of meetups.
Very nice. So what are your contributions in the community besides the meetups? Is that like your main one, or do you have others that you got?
I seem to do a lot. I'm a very busy person. So Heather, you and I met on conferencing. So I do lots of conferencing all over, Europe and North America generally. And so I speak about .NET, predominantly C#. I also blog. And my new thing since COVID has been streaming on Twitch. So I'm part of the Live Coders team, regularly streaming on all things .NET really, and playing with things, building the online community since we've had to go online. So there's lots of contributions there.
That's exciting. And I know that I'm getting ready to go on Twitch. It's a big step, because it reminds me of doing one of those 8-hour workshops in person, is that, you're trying to get everybody on the same page and show them something, and everything inevitably breaks. Some might say that's the thrill of being live or being on stage in person. It's terrifying to me. So kudos to you for being one of the Live Coders team. So yeah. What other experience do you think that lends itself specifically to be on the board?
So I've had a lot of different careers over the years. So I have a lot of different experiences that I hope to bring to the board. One of the big ones is that I am super organized. I am known as the organizer at work. And if something needs organizing or arranging, they come to me, and I usually get it done. So I'm very good at that. And I think I'm very empathic, and I would love to bring more people's views in, and listen and learn, and help make the community a growing, improving community. And I think that's what I can bring.
So I have a question off the cuff for you that I've been thinking about myself since I joined the foundation. What do you think the foundation's role should be going forward in the community?
So I think something that would be really good is to help encourage more new developers coming in. I've tried to build workshops and run meetups to help new developers, whether they're coming from another language or completely new to programming. And it's really hard. And I think if we want to keep it current, keep moving forward, we're making a really great start, especially with .NET Core and the cross-platform. So I'm coming from a web dev background, so that's going to be my experience. And I think we can really make better experiences, both for meetup organizers and new people, and give them tools and ways to help encourage and grow the community, right from our grassroots right up. So I would love to see the .NET Foundation supporting more meetups, giving them the tools to help grow the community and make everything more accessible.
What do you think has been the .NET community's biggest challenge against other open source languages?
I think letting people know that we're open source and cross-platform is a really big issue. I still get people going, hang on, you're developing on a Mac? What? How can you do that? So I still think there's this old mindset of the old Microsoft, that you have to be on Windows, that you have to do this. And I think we need to keep spreading that word and experience that it is modern. It can be done on Macs and Linux, and the cool kids can do .NET, and it's so varied. You can do absolutely everything, from game development to desktop development to mobile development to web. I mean, the possibilities are just endless, and we need to shout that from the rooftops.
Do you think that there is an example of how .NET has improved specifically that you think would bring people outside of the language into the language that we can capitalize on for that reason?
I do think just coming forward, open sourcing it and making it cross-platform has been the biggest move. I think out of everything, that has really made it accessible to so many more people. And I think that's the biggest move, to be honest. And the documentation is really good, but documentation is a living, breathing thing, and it can always be improved. And that's no small thing either. The Microsoft Docs are great, but they can always be better.
I have just two more questions. So what is your favorite thing that you've ever built in .NET?
Oh my goodness. I did a photo processor for a talk in January, and I built that in Azure Functions, and I actually built that for a fellow MVP, Lise Carter, and we did this super fun talk at NDC London together, and she taught me Xamarin live on stage. I'd never done Xamarin before. And it was just so much fun and so inspiring. And so many women came up to us afterwards and were like, this was amazing. And so that brought me real joy. And we had pictures that had sparkly overlays on them. So we sprinkled some sparkle on it. So that was probably one of the most fun things I built. I really enjoyed doing that.
I love it. So if you could compare yourself with any animal, which would it be and why?
Okay. I was actually asked this in an interview question a couple of years ago. And I think I'd have to be a dog. That sounds really weird, but
Not weird.
I'm super positive. I'm like generally a happy person. So you can imagine my tail is always wagging. I'm quite full of energy, and I really just like making people happy and pleasing people. Yeah, I think a dog would just, I love dogs. You know, dogs are my life. I love them. So yeah, I think, dog definitely. And I'm very loyal, and dogs are very loyal. So yeah.
Where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me, Layla Codes It. You can find me on Twitch on Layla Codes It. So yeah, I'm on most social media as Layla Codes It. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Layla.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. It's been great to see you again. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching.
We'll be back in just a few minutes with Rainier. Hello, Rainier.
Hi, Heather.
Welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Downey, and I'm here to interview the .NET Foundation board candidate, Rainier, right here. Would you like to introduce yourself fully and where you're from?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Stropek. I am from Austria. I am a developer, mostly focusing on .NET work, and I'm really looking forward to this interview with you, telling you why I run for the board of directors of the .NET Foundation, what I'm passionate about.
Very nice. But we're going to start off with a fun question because we always like to see the fun side of people first, right? So if you could compare yourself with any animal, which would it be and why?
Oh, that one's easy. I think I would be a cat. We have 2 cats, and I'm really a cat person. I understand them, and we really love them, and so that's easy. I would definitely be a cat.
Very nice. Myself, I'm more of a horse person, although lately I'm thinking about fostering a husky. So we're going to see what my answer would be and how it would change. So let's get started. Why are you running for the .NET Foundation board?
Yeah, you see, there is a two-part answer to that. The first one is I'm passionate about communities because, see, my home country is Austria here in Europe, and we are known for many things like Mozart, the Wiener Schnitzel, mountains, and many other things. But there is one thing about Austria that many people do not know. Community is very deeply rooted in our society. Nearly everybody is engaged in at least one club. Many people work in multiple ones. It's about music, sports, art, Red Cross, Fire Brigade, or Boy Scouts, or whatever. We are a small country, and I looked it up. We have 8 million citizens, and we have more than 130,000 volunteer-led clubs. So devoting time to a non-profit community is really something that I grew up with, and I value that idea a lot. So open source software, the idea of sharing knowledge and ideas in community is really something that feels very natural to me. And professionally, .NET has been an important part of my work as a software developer since its very beginning. I work in software development for more than 25 years now. So I started with the first technical previews, and ever since I built software based on the .NET platform. So the .NET Foundation kind of brings together these two things that I'm passionate about. On the one hand, spending time with friends in a non-profit community, enjoying writing code with .NET, and these two things made me run for a seat on the board of directors. But on the content point of view, I really learned to love working with kids and young coders. I know that supporting people who build and maintain open source projects is really the main goal of the .NET Foundation. But what I would like to put into the focus of my work in the .NET Foundation is working with kids and young people. In the last 5 years, I have learned that the learning approach of those young people is very different compared to professional developers. They want to playfully, creatively explore technologies instead of starting with seemingly boring theoretical concepts. They dream about so many cool things that they want to build, and they are looking for platforms and tools with which they can start immediately. As professional developers, we know how important a solid understanding of the underlying concepts is in order to master something like .NET. And this is how we teach coding, always from the ground up. We spend so much time discussing details, but exactly that makes it look so complicated from a beginner's perspective. So it would make me really happy if I could influence communities that create learning content, that organize meetups, conferences, so that they dedicate a part of their work and ingenuity in fascinating kids for software development. As an industry, we suffer from a lack of junior coders. Additionally, a lack of diversity is, as we all know, a real problem in most development teams. And I strongly believe that we need to approach kids and young coders differently compared to older students and professionals. And organizations like the .NET Foundation can use their influence in that direction, and I would hope that I could contribute a little bit to that process of approaching young coders, for instance.
Oh, that's awesome. I love kids, and I found it to be very fulfilling. And you're right, there is a difference in the way that they learn. What are your contributions to the .NET community so far? Like, what have you been doing?
Recently, I received the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional MVP award for the 10th time. So
Oh,
I do that for
congrats.
quite a long time. I currently hold 2 MVP titles, one for Microsoft Azure and one for Developer Technologies. And in 2015, I also became a Microsoft Regional Director. This does not mean that I work for Microsoft, but as RD, we act as kind of non-paid advisors, and we contribute customer insights and real-world voices to the Microsoft product teams. And the basis why I got these awards is my work as a speaker and technical writer. In a typical year, I visit over 30 conferences and meetups and give talks about .NET and Azure. And most of these events are non-profit. I really happily spend this time because I love working with communities. You learn so much. Even if you come there as a speaker, you get so much insights by listening to commercial and open source developers, discussing their challenges and hearing about their everyday struggles and successes. And besides my work as a speaker and a trainer, the community contribution I'm most proud of is founding the local Coder Dojo in my hometown, Linz. Coder Dojos are a worldwide network of volunteer-led programming clubs for kids between 7 and 17. And creating this community from scratch and participating as a mentor has been a lot of fun. And more importantly, it changed my perspective on how to teach coding fundamentally. We started Coder Dojo 5 years ago, and I've been acting as a chairman in these programming clubs. And today we have over 1,500 visits of kids per year. We do events practically every week. We help schools establish coding classes. We educate teachers in how to teach coding. And C# and .NET are a vital part of the coding exercises and projects that we do with kids and teenagers in the Coder Dojo.
Very nice. You mentioned that you had been involved a little bit with diversity. So do you have a suggestion of a concrete way the .NET community can help encourage that?
Well, if I come back to my work with kids and young adults, with teenagers, I think it's very important to give the young people some kind of context. So it's always important to not only just show technology, but show them how they can use technology for something that is very important for themselves. And we have to understand that for us, as teachers, as adults, this context, the things that we are passionate about is very different from what young people are passionate about. And I think we have to open that up and let everybody use technology for things that are important for them. And sometimes we forget the perspective of, for instance, young girls or people who have a different cultural background and so on. And we must not force our ideas on what to do with technologies on these groups in order to let them really use their full potential and use technology for something that they are passionate about.
Very nice. I know that you've definitely built some things in .NET in your past, right? So what is your favorite project you've ever done?
That's again very simple. I am an entrepreneur. I have been self-employed since the first day after finishing IT school. I founded and led multiple IT companies, and currently I'm co-founder and CEO of a small company here in Austria. And what we build cloud-based software as a service solution. And there we built a product which is called Time Cockpit. I have built it from the very ground up. We started it as on the green field, and it was an amazing journey in the last 12 years. And it's .NET all over. And yeah, I love it. This is my favorite product, and I learned a lot in not just building this product, but also maintaining it for a long period of time. And I think that is also important for the .NET Foundation to understand what it means, especially in the open source world, to not just create something, but keep it alive and keep it maintained, well maintained over a longer period of time.
Nice. So where can people follow you on Twitter?
It's R Stropek, like the first letter of my first name and then my last name, and on YouTube and so on, I can be found on Rainer.Stropek. I'm lucky because my name is not that common, so if you Google just my name, you will probably find me immediately.
Ah, very nice. Thank you for joining us all the way from Austria.
Thank you very much for this nice interview, Heather.
Absolutely, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be right back with Shawn. All right, welcome back. We're here to interview Shawn Wildermuth. Welcome, Shawn.
Hey there, how are you doing?
Oh, excellent. It's been a minute since I've seen you.
Yeah, about 4 months, 5 months. Oh, wow, maybe 6 months now.
Almost, since we were in Antarctica, right?
Fact.
Right. Well, welcome. Make sure you tell everybody a little bit about why you are running and where you're from.
Well, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, or at least that's where I live these days. I'm running mostly because I want to expand the community of .NET. I've worked with a number of startups as well as my work with diversity and inclusion, and I think there's some holes in where .NET reaches to, and I really think we could, as a foundation, help reach out to especially startups. I've worked with some startup Saturdays, and Microsoft is almost never picked as a technology there. And I want to understand why and maybe help some of the projects that would lend our voice outside of the traditional Microsoft customers, the .NET customers.
Oh, yes. For those of you who don't know, Shawn has been a friend of mine for a while, but not everybody knows what your contributions are. Do you want to tell them what those are?
Sure. I've been working with .NET since the beta. So I think back in 2000, and I've written a number of books, been teaching .NET for forever. And I've also open sourced quite a lot of code out on GitHub for a variety of things, back from some Silverlight libraries and some Windows Phone libraries to some .NET Core projects for RSS and for Metalog API, which is something that my own blog and my the Atlanta Code Camp's website both use, which are also both open sourced. When open source came to being, it became really important to me that I code in the view of the community, because I think code that is exposed to the air of review is improved. And so that's part of sort of my passion around open source, is not just sharing code and so that people can have better code by people looking at it, but also trying to do as much out in the open of people being able to see what I think good code looks like, or at least not allowing me to take shortcuts because I know someone might actually read my code.
That's true. Didn't you also come out with a film?
Well, this fall, I'll be coming out with a film on diversity and inclusion in software development. It's a feature-length documentary, and it should be on a number of platforms, Amazon, Apple TV, etc. This fall. We'll have announcements about when that comes out. But we actually did a preview at a conference when we went to Antarctica, and I'm really excited about it. It's been 4 long years of my life talking to people about software development in general.
So what experience do you think that lends itself specifically to be on the board?
That's a good question. I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't have a lot of experience working with large groups. So at first blush, it might not seem like I'm the natural fit for the board. But because I've been working in the .NET community so long, and by that I mean working with customers, teaching people over the years, I think I want to bring to the board my experience seeing something outside of just the Fortune 500 companies. I think it becomes very easy for us to get drawn into what is important to big enterprises, which is where I think .NET has a lot of traction, and try to expand that. In addition, I talk to a lot of developers and a lot of developers that are just starting through my teaching, whether that's the Pluralsight courses I do or the training I do through Wilderminds. There's some real pain points that they see in trying to adopt and understand the libraries, and being able to support open source projects that can make that better, I think is a huge benefit. And I really want to encourage us to think outside of North America and traditional, white guys in cargo pants as the only ones that can write open source software. I really encourage not just the next generation, but this generation that maybe doesn't fit into what we think is our normative view of what developers look like. That's crucially important to me, and what really drew me to serve on the board.
Yes. What is the one thing that you think the .NET Foundation can grow and improve with, if you had to pick one?
I'm hoping that the .NET Foundation can look at more than just functionality. I want the projects that are supported by the .NET Foundation to be exemplars to the kind of code that will help the community on the whole. That's not just the enterprise developers in New York City, but the brand new developers in the emerging world. When I did a trip around the world and met developers from a number of continents, and it's interesting how different and how isolated some people feel, because they're in the different time zones, and because they're from different backgrounds, and money certainly is a part of that issue. And so be able to support projects that aim at expanding that to looking at, whether it's more projects around internationalization, or helping with projects that are trying to come from more diverse groups and backgrounds and countries and time zones and hemispheres even. It just feels to me a lot like when we think about .NET developers, we're stuck in Europe, North America, Northern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. And I really hope we could change that.
Absolutely agree with you there. So what is the favorite project that you have built in .NET over the years?
That's a good question. My favorite project. It's actually a project that's dead now.
Could you build it now? Could you build it in the current version of .NET?
I certainly could. No, I built a business based on helping people find movies and TVs called How to Watch. And I built it in .NET, and it was really a lot of fun. Built it in an early version of Core and got it out there. And the programming, as with most of these cases, is never the hard part. Yeah. The hard part is actually, it really came down to when our app got denied by Apple and got pulled.
Yeah, it's been there.
It was over. So I'm passionate about people trying to start and come up with new ideas, whether they're brilliant, tiny ideas, or whether some people are trying to change the world with it. One of the things that I'm really happy to have contributed to was Humanitarian Toolbox, because I feel like the kind of work they're doing is really important, and because it's .NET, I feel like I could really contribute when I was more active with the project.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a fun question before we go.
Sure.
If you had a choice between two superpowers, being invisible or flying, which would you choose?
Well, this is an interesting question. I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm going to not use one of those two superpowers, because I was asked recently what superpower I would like if I could choose, and I would choose the USSR during the Cold War. That's my favorite superpower. Right. I'm not sure that's what you meant.
Not what I meant. If you can't make the decision, I could certainly give you one of them. If I could just bestow one on you, I would say I would love it for you to be able to fly, so you could go to more places, to more coders, and teach them what you know.
That's lovely. Having to get into a plane ever again would be a treat.
Now, how can people find you on Twitter?
It's just my name, Shawn Wildermuth. It's the same name on Twitter, on GitHub, everywhere except for Facebook products, where I'm not at. So you can't find me anywhere there.
Thank you so much for interviewing with us, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Shawn. Oops. Mitchel. Welcome back. Next, we've got Mitchel, I believe. Hello, Mitchel. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Awesome. Please, for the rest of the viewers, introduce yourself and where you're from.
I'm Mitchel Sellers. I'm from the Des Moines, Iowa area.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome. I know you and I met several years ago, right? I think in Denver, correct? I think that's right.
It was Denver, or I don't know. I've lost track at this point. Way too many events.
We're going to start off with a fun question.
Okay.
So if you could compare yourself with any animal, which would it be and why?
That was not on the list of questions.
It absolutely was on that list.
Yeah. I don't know. That is not a question I have ever thought of. I don't have a great answer.
Understood. Well, you could share perhaps what your hobby is that you and I just chatted about.
Well, I think most people have figured this out eventually. Pictures behind me, airplane models over here. I love flying airplanes. So a little bummed with all of the events being canceled and not being able to use the airplane much. No reason, no places.
Agreed. So perhaps a bird or something like that.
We'll feel more at home that way, I think. Yeah.
So let's start off with, why are you running for the .NET Foundation board?
So I'm running for the .NET Foundation board because I'm the leader of a large .NET based content management system, DNN, that is a member of the .NET Foundation, and as part of that, I've seen the benefits that come with the .NET Foundation and how the .NET Foundation can help these open source projects succeed, as well as the other initiatives, with speaker support and everything else. But at the same time, it's not been easy as a project maintainer, where I think there's some areas that the .NET Foundation can improve the relationship with the various open source projects, with the speakers and all of these other initiatives to make life a little bit easier, to further elevate those projects to be more sustainable, have a better future, and getting on the board to be able to help shape and drive some of that mission. I think it's the most effective way that I can help to improve what the .NET Foundation does and all of the projects that are members of it.
Love it. So what is your background with the .NET Foundation so far?
So far, I've been a member of the .NET Foundation, since basically as soon as they opened up membership for everyone. And then I am the technology group leader for the .NET Nuke open source project, .NET based CMS, for those that don't know. It's been around for almost 20 years, but we've been really open source and really in charge from a community perspective for about 3 years. And part of that transition was instrumental in becoming part of the .NET Foundation. And without the support of the .NET Foundation, we would not be able to do what we've done thus far.
Nice. So what experience do you have specifically that lends itself to be on the board?
So I have experience on other boards of directors, serving with groups that are kind of similar to the way that the .NET Foundation is put together. So having some experience working with larger organizations in nonprofit or other type of scenarios, I think I have the board level experience makes me a little bit more aware of the process and the challenges. Volunteer boards, we're not being compensated for this kind of thing. Motivation becomes really hard, and personal responsibility is really key. So if all of the board members are participating and those board members are dedicated to it, you can be effective, but you also have to be respectful and understand how to work in those relationships, especially with disconnected scenarios as well. So I think that background in other organizations will definitely lend well to cooperating with the board, combined then with my experience as a member.
Very nice. So you've already kind of talked a little bit about your contributions, right, in the community. But what is the one thing that you think the .NET Foundation can grow and improve with, if you had to pick one thing?
Long-term integrity and support for projects. So they do great. We do a great job of getting the projects in and providing them some of that low level support and everything. But there's a lot more, right, in elevating the standards. About, I guess I can't remember exactly the timeline, but there was this maturity model, right, that was pitched at one point in time and kind of dissipated a little bit. But a concept like a maturity model to be able to kind of vet and guide a project. How do you become a great open source project, right? How do you sustain beyond? I think that's the area that the .NET Foundation on the open source side, right? It's the one big thing that could be accomplished.
Oh, absolutely. So you're talking more about coming up with more of a set of standards that people who are beginning could follow.
So yeah, it's setting standards. So for example, we've built our own processes, for example, on how we handle security vulnerabilities and how we communicate those. We are doing our own builds, but we're not necessarily doing all of the things that we should be doing with builds, right? Repeatable builds and signing our assemblies and some of those kinds of things, or signing our NuGet packages, right? So I think there's a place where, a level of guidance for these projects of like, hey, if you're utilizing this distribution method, we need to do these things. If you're using this process, right, you need your builds to be repeatable or to be tagged, and just setting some of those things so that people don't have to figure it out on their own as much. And then from the other side, right, it builds confidence in those projects for those that are adopting, right? Because if we're following a best practice that was published or the recommendations of a standard, now we've added more credence and value, right, to our project as a whole.
Do you have a suggestion, or have you seen something that would work in a way that the .NET community can help encourage diversity more?
The biggest thing for me with diversity and inclusion, which is, I believe, absolutely imperative in our industry, because it is a real problem, standards of conduct and published pathways to contribute, I think, are the biggest ways that you can help from a project perspective. Having codes of conduct are something that I've stressed in all of the open source projects that I've been part of. I hate having to fall back to a code of conduct, but by putting something out there that you are inclusive, you have a set of rules, right, to be able to guide yourselves by. When something comes up that isn't appropriate, you have a way to remediate that situation. Because if we are honest and open that we want to allow others, that becomes a good way in. Now, from there, right, a lot of it comes out to outreach and being able to attract the people. That is an area that I'm still learning and growing in terms of the better ways to be able to do it. But it comes down to the attitudes, right, of when you do get the new contributor. Maybe you get something that comes in from somebody that's brand new to your project, and you know what, maybe they don't follow your process. Maybe they don't give you all of the bug reports, or maybe they even report something that you already knew and they just couldn't find it in GitHub issues. If you start out by being inclusive and simply helping guide them around that pathway, I think that helps. If you welcome everybody with open arms, doesn't matter what your background is, what your gender is, your religion, it doesn't matter, right? We're all contributing towards a project. If we run our project with that same mindset, some of it will happen naturally.
That's great. So where can people find you on Twitter?
Twitter, I am Mitchel Sellers. Mitchel with one L, most importantly. I don't believe there's anybody with two L's.
Mitchel with one L. Got it. Yep. Thank you so much for being willing to tell us how you would make things better for the .NET Foundation, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you guys having me. And, it's a great pool of candidates, and excited to see how things go.
Thank you guys for having me. And I hope that you will vote when it comes time to vote for your favorite .NET Foundation candidate.